upstander, Connie Rice.
Throughout her life as a lawyer and activist, she won numerous awards, 50 to be exact, including the Ralph Boucher Humanitarian Award, long, right? The Human Dignity Award, the John Anson Humanitarian Award, and the Peace Prize. As someone who is not considered a celebrity, one may ask, how is she able to obtain so many awards as someone who is recognized nationally like Leonardo DiCaprio? Well, taking a look at her past, you may see why she was given so many incredible awards, and how her work is still helping our society in a huge way. Let's hear more about Connie Rice. Now, shall we? She was born in Washington, D.C. In her youth, she looked up towards powerful women such as Queen Elizabeth II, Anne Frank, and Barbara Jordan, in hopes to make powerful impacts like them. Connie attended Harvard University, where she was able to get her bachelor's degree in government, as well as NYU Law, graduating with a JD degree in 1984. Due to her father's job, she was always consistently moving from place to place. By the end of her childhood, she moved 17 times around the world from Japan to America. Her father's job allowed Connie to develop many beneficial skills, such as standing up for others, knowing actions are stronger than words, striving to improve, and being patient to others. All these skills can later be seen throughout her work as an activist. Her father's job, being an African-American U.S. Force major, indeed helped Connie to understand at a young age not to let some challenge keep you from achieving something you're passionate about. Before I talk about the cause, here's a bit of background information of why Connie Rice jumped into action. Back in the 1980s, the increase of drugs caused the development of gangs to expand throughout the LA area and other parts of the U.S. Hence, the activities done by these people were meant to cause damage to the community. Overall, ideas from two activist parties were gone, the Black Panther Party and the Brown Berets. The southern area of LA was more divided than it was in previous years and contained different gangs on each block. During the early 1990s, the boost in drugs influenced gang growth, making them spiral out of control. Maybe spiral out of control may seem a bit too extreme, but it is the best way to describe the high amounts of homicide killings in LA, along with the threatening fear these groups installed on individuals. Another major issue during the 1900s was police misconduct. Due to racism and discrimination, policemen were over-abusive towards their citizens. Policemen would purposely target African Americans and harm them more viciously than white people. For example, the LAPD policemen would use harsher tones with African Americans. They would beat and kick them and even use police dogs and fire hoses on African Americans protesting without causing any violence. In some cases, policemen would pull over these people. One known hate crime was during the 1960s, where John Smith was stopped at a traffic stop and beaten by policemen for no apparent reason. The outcome of this crime led to 26 people dead and injured, as well as 4 people arrested. Other things such as racism, discrimination, expensive transportation fares, and unfair verdicts also had a negative toll on society. As Connie continued with her lawyering career, she saw more and more of these problems arise, especially when a case was handed to her, or even taking a stroll around the city. One of these cases involved a person named Billy Neal Moore, who was sent to death row after pleading guilty to a murder he did not commit. Connie, along with another lawyer, Julia Barroza, was chosen to convince the judge to let Moore free from his execution date. Taking hours and hours of research, and with the help of his family's testimony, Billy was released from death row. The case displayed Connie's hard work as a law student, but it also showed her that nothing was truly impossible. After seeing the video of Rodney King beaten, Connie decided that she wanted to do more than sit behind a window, and instead change the problems that were gripping the world. She wanted to help the African American community and the people who lived in constant fear of gangs. She was motivated by the people's screams and wanted to take action before the kill zones became a bigger threat. She also worked to minimize the amount of children who lived in harsh communities that caused them anxiety. As Rice sees it, Los Angeles is the gang capital of the developed world. In our impact litigation, we are winning our cases on issues of employment, on environmental cases, on excessive force cases. But we are sending our clients back to neighborhoods where they couldn't walk home. I realized that without safety, there is no freedom. Without the rights to be saved, there are no other rights. Although it may seem strange that somebody spontaneously jumps into action to change their community, Connie's motivations can be anchored by the people she looked up to and what she thought was right. For instance, Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech and actions allowed Connie to gather more courage and confidence to make his dream into a reality. Her father's brave decision to become part of the Air Force and her past ancestors, who were all slaves, guided Rice to make other people see the true dynamic of a community that has always been looked down upon. In addition, her passion to become a civil rights lawyer like Barbara Jordan fueled her actions. During the time when Connie was trying to find ways for policemen to treat African Americans fairly, the LA riots escalated. As you may know, the LA riots were a response to an unfair decision made by the jury, as an innocent man named Rodney King was beaten up by policemen. After the first few days of the riots, billions of dollars were lost in buildings, and many people were burned. And many people were injured as well. Nationally, people witnessed one of America's biggest problems that's been carelessly swept away for many decades. Watching the events occur, Connie's views shifted in regards to how she would minimize police brutality and reduce gang violence. In her constant battle with the police and gangs, people like Molly Munger and Charlie Beck made it possible for Rice to achieve her goals. Molly Munger was Connie's law partner. Similar to Rice, she won a lawsuit, Gonzalez versus Davis, that accumulated $1 billion to build new schools in California, especially in LA. Molly became very passionate about improving and expanding the number of kids that receive an education. Later in her career, she founded a program called Water Cooler to bring stakeholders across California to create policy solutions that would take care of children in need from birth to age 5. Furthermore, Molly supported Our Children, Our Future in 2013 to help out students in need. In addition, Molly Munger is the co-founder of the Advancement Project, in which Connie is also a co-founder in. Together, they, along with many other staff members, help achieve the rights and equality for injustices in society, such as lack of health care for the poor. Another person who was very helpful to Connie's goal was Charlie Beck, the chief of the LAPD. Charlie teamed up with Connie Rice to have police officers improve the way they encounter African Americans and learned when it's acceptable to pull someone over. The two of them created the Community Safety Partnership, with Connie as the advisor of the program. Furthermore, Beck was able to help officers find an alternative way of handling a problem without using violence. By doing so, he was able to improve the LAPD's relationship with residents in LA and people who were in the state illegally. He helped immigrants by not reporting them to the federal authorities, who were tracking them down to send them back to their original countries. Hence, Charlie Beck ordered to shut down funeral gatherings in hopes to prevent bursts of violence. As Connie's good influence rubbed off on him, he preached for a criminal persecution after an officer shot an unarmed homeless man and had sexual intercourse with a 15-year-old. Before I talk about her biggest accomplishments, here are some things that Connie did that led up to her success. She was an associate attorney for Morrison & Foerster in San Francisco for about a year in the late 1980s. She fought a case against the transit system, leading to the largest civil rights case in which they won $2 billion. Between 1987 and 1990, she was hired to be the special assistant to the Vice Chancellor of USC. Through 1990 to 1995, Connie was the president of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Now you may be wondering what Connie Rice did that makes her an upstander. Well, here's the reason. After the Rodney King video was made public on March 3, 1991, Connie decided to try and change the way the LAPD trains its officers. In her efforts to change the training system, Connie sat down with over 900 officers over the course of 3 months and listened to every one of them, which explained why they approached African American people so differently than Caucasians. Connie was able to come up with a way to reteach these officers. Some of the things she did was sitting in the car with the officers and seeing when they will pull someone over and correcting them on their tone and attitude, as well as figuring out a way to make the officers less prejudiced and racist. While changing the ways of the LAPD, Connie was able to reduce gangs in LA. She made gangs seem more like friends than enemies. She was able to successfully get some gangs to agree to stop drive-bys and vandalism. Due to the reduction of gangs, violence in general decreased in LA. Connie did a couple of things to bring awareness to the people in LA. Foremost, she joined the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund in Los Angeles, for which she was part of the Western Regional Council. The organization took different approaches to tackle racial problems occurring in LA. Furthermore, the group tried to expand on how America was built on democracy, and as a result, they attempted to reach justice for as many people as possible. Lastly, the NAACP worked to improve diversity in some things such as jobs and schools. In addition to the NAACP, Connie was the co-founder of the Advancement Project. This is a program that works alongside with the community, coming up with solutions that will lead to a positive outcome. Their goal is to reach equality for important causes such as education, health, and public funds. Although her efforts to reduce gang violence and change the way policemen approach their citizens came with consequences. First of all, interacting with gangs caused all sorts of misfortunes to happen, such as vandalism, identity theft, home invasion, fraud, assault, and robbery. In addition, losing a case was very disheartening, as many lawyers can tell you. For instance, you have to bear with the guilt of telling your client that you lost, struggle with the stress of news outlets, deal with the time lost, and see your client lose money. Likewise, creating change might not always sit well with the people, especially if it's causing them to change their way of life. What actually happened was that Connie received death threats from the police. Not the gangs, not the citizens, but the police. Connie did not let these threats deter her from doing her work, leading to numerous positive results. Foremost, she was able to team up with conservatives on educational issues and had the support of the LAPD in her work to reduce gangs. Furthermore, she was able to win over $1.6 billion in policy changes at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. At the age of 62, Connie continues her work, knowing that change will not happen in a few years, but over many decades to a disunited society. Her long-lasting legacy isn't just her work to minimize violence, but going head-to-head with the unfair inequality problems and coming out victorious.